Okay, so this is technically demo day 5, but it's not really because I actually did this work like 2 weeks ago and then took some time off because we went camping for Memorial Day. But now I'm getting back around to this footage. I'm fixing to take the roof off and do that before I do anything else on the inside. So let's get at it. All right, so this session right here, I went ahead and tackled this back floor right here. As you can see, it is completely rotten. I can't put any weight on it. I wasn't entirely sure what was underneath this floor. I was worried about cutting into the tank, which is why I started really shallow, and you'll see I'm kind of digging in there to get that back piece off so I can kind of figure out what I'm dealing with. I had an idea that it was going to be the same as the front floor where I could just tear everything up. But I really didn't want to cut into this black tank, also because it's not empty either. So that's another reason I didn't want to cut into it. Now, in an ideal world, this would have just come out as a whole piece nicely, but this was not an ideal world. So basically just use my circular saw to cut it in again to try to get this top piece off. And as you can see, it was not budging. The whole camper was moving, but the floor didn't want to come up, which was shocking considering how disgusting this floor was. So I went ahead and got my multi-tool to kind of score the other ends where my circular saw didn't cut. And I actually ended up figuring out that it was the same as the other floor. So after a little bit of cutting, you can see right here that the floor is starting to come up. And this is like, I just love it when things come out in one piece like this. So as you can see, I'm going to be careful with this drain right here, not to crack that. But that whole piece of floor pretty much just comes up. And what is left is that's basically 1/4-inch plywood that's completely rotten and plastic on the bottom. So I'm going to end up taking all of this off. I'm going to start fresh. I'm going to start with new flooring and new underlayment, all of that stuff, because it is really bad here. And I'm going to do the same thing for the front part. But as of right now, I'm still on demo, so I'm trying to get most of the rotten wood out. And then I'm going to move on to the roof, and then I'm going to come back once this thing's got a new roof on it. I'm going to repair the inside because I obviously don't want it to get wet while while the roof is still leaking. So very carefully, I'm going to start cutting away at this plastic that's underneath, and I just exposed the black tank right there, which is great. So now I can try to figure out exactly where this tank goes and how big it is so I don't cut into it. Definitely don't want to do that. That would be not a fun mess to clean up. I guess I've cleaned up worse. I do have 3 children, but I guess it's different when it's your own kid's poop and not somebody else's. But then again, I also did work at a preschool, so I'm pretty familiar with other people's poop. Anyway, enough about poop. Yeah, so I'm basically just going to keep cutting. And right here, this piece was like partially solid, and so that's why it's giving me such a hard time. It would be a whole lot easier if I just had a place to stand. I did actually end up taking the under part of this camper out. That way I can start shoving things underneath. And as you can see, there's a little bit of daylight sticking out right there because so underneath the camper is basically this giant plastic board, and that holds basically all of the water lines and all of the electrical underneath, so it doesn't like get exposed to the elements. So I took that off just to make life a little bit easier. I am hoping that by doing that, that piece just came off. Isn't that so satisfying, just seeing the whole thing come off? Anyway, I'm hoping by taking that under piece off, I will be able to get the flooring that's underneath that cabinet right there from the underneath. I didn't want to have to take that cabinet out because it is huge and like it would be such a pain to take that thing out. So I'm really hoping to get the bottom of that floor out through the underside, but we'll see how that goes. I still may end up having to take it out, but hopefully not. So right now I'm just working all these pieces out around this flange right here. I kind of have an idea of how I'm going to put this back. So if you have an area that's rotted around a tank like this, you're going to want to stay tuned for this because I have never actually taken an entire floor out like this that's this rotted in a bathroom around a tank. So this is going to be kind of a a new experiment for me, so I'm curious to see how this goes. Now this whole corner right here where all these water lines are and the pipes that are coming up are kind of a mess. So I just ended up cutting around it and kind of peeling the rotten wood out of the way of that. I'm trying really hard not to put too much pressure on this tank, even though it is supported. It's got framing underneath it. It's probably steel framing underneath it that's welded to the actual frame of the camper itself, but it is plastic, and plastic does break. And it is, let's see, this camper is like 2001 or something like that, so it is, 20-year-old plus plastic. So I just, and yeah, anyway, yeah, I'm just gonna keep working around it. I accumulated so much trash from this one section, it was absolutely insane. So if you're going to do this, just prepare to have a gigantic mess, because you see I made a little hole right there. I'm going to shove everything in. I made a really big mess with this because there's so much foam and it all came off in like little pieces and it was just ridiculous. So right here, I'm kind of just trying to figure out how to get this corner off without damaging anything. I took that little ring off right there that goes around the pipes just to make life a little bit easier so I can see exactly where that pipe is. I don't want to cut into that because that is actually the plumbing for my sink, I believe. So I'm just going to work at this like one little tiny section at a time. I even thought about trying to come up from underneath the black tank right there and just stand on the ground, but then I would have had to take more of that plastic underneath off, and that seemed like a lot because the sewer drain is right there. The sewer pole is just right under me, and so it was really awkward if I was going to try to get up under there. Anyway, inch by inch, I do end up getting all that stuff off. I think I actually ended up leaving the corner maybe because there was another pipe that came up there, and I will deal with that once I start to get everything from underneath and repair that after I already have all this stuff out. Now, I'll just go ahead and apologize for this terrible angle right here, but it was really hard to get this corner once everything was already out. But all I'm doing is taking that plastic liner that was... It used to have a piece of wood on it, but the piece of wood is rotten. So now it's just a plastic liner. So I'm just getting that out. And so the bottom of this camper will be completely open and exposed. And I actually had this sitting here for, it's been 2 weeks since I've got to it. And I've had to come in a couple times and check to make sure there's no like raccoons or anything living in here. So now that I've got all of this, I will move on to the roof. I'm going to try to do some pretty good step-by-step videos of that. I'm waiting for my camera to charge right now so I can take off the awning. And then I will start with the vents and all that stuff. And I know I've got some damage to repair, so I'll record that for you guys as well. Anyway, hope you're having a great day, and I'll see you on the next video.